It's number 10. Section of the resolution 23.
I didn't get, I was looking at the funds.
Yeah, and I would thought it was like part of the ordinances for some reason. I don't know why.
Telling you, my daughter,
I didn't check those corrections. Did you check it?
when you in,
Sent you?
let me in with.
Oh,
I
because
went to the touch screen. I know that's
You went in and cried.
not, I was just.
it was funny that I have a touch screen at work, my laptop.
My work laptop's, it's the same thing, but
I cannot get used to it.
right.
I'm used to it. And so then I go on this, but I'm touching it. I'm like, why isn't this working? Thank you.
I mean,
So
they're best.
Oh, that's like that. So call the meeting to order. May the clerk please read the statement?
Adequate notice of this regular meeting was provided to the public and the press on January 6, 2023, and was posted at the municipal building in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-7.
Please join me as we salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you please call the roll?
How you doing?
good, all right.
I just want to make sure that.
Is Joe on the call?
Oh, Councilmember DeStacy? Here. Councilmember Rizzuto?
Here.
Councilmember Sparta?
Present.
Councilmember Tadrick?
Here.
Council President Bushieri?
Here. Okay, may I have, we'll have public comments for current agenda items only. Any person in the public who wishes to speak can come forward and just state which agenda item you'll be addressing. May I have a motion to open the floor for public comment?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Sparta. May I have a second? Second. Second by Ms. DeStacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, the floor is open. If anyone from the public in person wishes to come forward. No? Okay, have anybody virtually, Marcy?
We don't have any hands up right now.
Okay, I have a motion to close the floor to public comment.
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Sparta, second. Second. Second by Ms. DeStacy. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll go on to our discussion items. We have just an update that I asked from our administration regarding the Daniels Law and the redaction of the minutes. Ms. Kraus or Ms. Bright, do you have just an update on the?
They are actually being worked on every day. We are gonna update you, we're hoping quarterly, to give you an idea, but we should have everything done by the end of the year. But Marcy and her staff is definitely on it every day.
How
So-
far have you gotten?
We have right now, I believe to 2018. So we have 23 to 2018.
And those are all back
website.
up on the website.
Yes.
Okay. So, and how far back did we go on the website prior to this?
2010, I think.
2010.
So you have 8 more years
Yeah,
of, but you've already
done 4.
done 4 in just a month's time. So, I mean, I'd like some goals. And I think we talked about that, like perhaps by second quarter, will you get all the way to 2015? Some type of target like that, and maybe you could share that with the council, what like.
yeah, I mean, I'm hoping to get at least another 4 years in the next, I'd say 3 weeks.
Okay. So then you'll be to 2014.
Yep.
And then you'll only have 4 more years after that.
Okay, that's acceptable.
All right, if you could just.
And we do have all the other boards and commissions too that are being.
That are being redacted, yes. And of course, any members of the public can request minutes
Absolutely.
and they'll be provided with the normal guidelines. But yeah, maybe if you could just make a note, by the end, we're at the end of March now, maybe by the end of April, give the council an update on how far you've gotten. Sure. Where.
Mhm.
Okay. Does anybody else have a comment or a question about that?
No.
So I'm just gonna make a note and we'll get an update by the end of April. And the repositioning of the video screen. We had talked about that quite a bit and Mayor, you had a update on the cost to do that?
Yes, the cost to do that is $1,100. There was just some general discussion on it, so I sent an email to the council president and said, I just want to make sure that the council as a group, at least three, want that done. And if so, we're gonna have to spend the $1,100 to get it done.
So what would that do when you say repositioning? So that would pull that camera down closer?
The plan is to take one of the camera or
Video
the
screen.
monitors and turn it so the public can actually see what we're seeing on our
And that's
end.
gonna cost $1,000?
How is that? It's just spin.
How is that possible?
That was a quote they gave us.
And that's
Were
the
they- were
same
they
company that
drinking?
installed these?
All you need is,
You ha-
all you
you
need is
have a
somebody to
ladder?
stand up there and spin it up if you have a ladder. It's all wired.
I'm just curious. So that was the same company that installed the?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of money just to spin it around, right? Like.
But what are you
Uh,
installing? It's already installed. All you're doing is turning it around.
I'm looking.
Am I missing something?
I relied upon the business administrator to get the quote for me, and I've got every confidence that she contacted them correctly. So, but this is the quote that says, swap TV in council chambers, $1,000. Miscellaneous cable supplies, $100, total $1,100.
So
Did
did
you
they
say
think
swap
you
it there?
wanted a new?
I'm just reading. That's what. it
Yeah,
says,
I'm
yeah.
curious if they maybe misunderstood because we don't want a new TV. We just want to,
Turn it. And that's when I reached out to them. That's exactly what I told them.
excuse me.
You don't want the camera. You don't want another camera. You just want the screen.
I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm sorry, excuse me. Please, thank you.
When I did reach out to them, we advised them that that's all we wanted to do was just to rotate
Mhm.
video or the monitor to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
And that's the price.
That was the price they came back with.
How many
That's
places did you
ridiculous.
go?
I'm sorry, we have a public comment time. This is a council discussion. Thank
How
you.
many places did you ask for a quote from?
We only went to the original people that put it up.
Maybe you need to shop around a little.
Well, that's,
This is our contracted computer services vendor.
Do we have to use
You
them?
have to use them.
We
Absolutely not.
can't.
well, you know,
I would
No?
I would have to check and see what our contract currently states before
If we're allowed
I
to,
should answer that.
okay, I understand that, but
If he's forcing us to use him because he's the contracted vendor, then I suggest voiding that contract and finding somebody else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, that does seem like a lot of money.
To turn a TV
turn
around,
a
that's a
TV
lot of
around.
money.
Yeah,
And he doesn't have to change the cable because there's no lengthening of cable. It's just turning the TV. So
yeah, I mean, I don't
that's
know.
a
what the other side of it
bogus,
looks
that's a
like. I haven't-
bogus amount. in
I
my opinion.
appreciate, I do appreciate you getting the quote and I understand that's what he told you. But it does seem pretty high.
well, again, I did not, I could have signed this and gotten it done and then later, but I saw,
No, I appreciate,
told them out. And, you know, and I just wanted you to make sure,
no,
council,
I appreciate that, Mayor, because
you wanted,
I mean, we were the ones who
Done.
talked about it and we're interested in having that done.
yep.
But it does seem like a lot of money for
Yeah.
what would be like a simple task.
I don't know if it's a matter of just getting a ladder, twisting it around. I don't know if that's the case. I do know that we might see whether or not, if we have someone else to do anything to this, if it'll violate our
Yeah.
warranty or something.
Check that.
You know,
Yeah.
those kinds of things, the way suppliers of anything kind of get you in, you know, so
If you
we'll
can
see.
On that contract.
we'll get more details on it, okay?
Council wants more details on that contract, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, please provide that, yeah. Provide more details on that.
Okay,
Anybody have any other comments or
The
questions?
only other comment I have is a lot of people are complaining they can't see you, Mayor. You're off screen.
Oh.
So they would like you to move over.
oh, okay,
There you go.
There you go.
okay, thank you.
You.
Right, anybody else for that discussion item, or we're good?
We're good.
Okay, all right, the review of the bills list. Each council member did receive a list of the bills. Have you had a chance to review it? Does anyone have any questions about anything?
I do, yes. You
Mrs.
want me to
Duffy?
start?
Yeah, go ahead.
The snowshoe event timer, this seems to be a repetitive expense. Is there any way that we can start doing this on our own?
What
without-
check number is that, Mr.
I'm
Staff?
sorry, it's 59458. I know we paid the same thing last year for the snowshoe event. Is there any way that we can start doing this, ourselves and not pay such a high expense?
It's my understanding that this is the actual timer that's for the, for the runners. So I think it is an annual expense anytime you have a run like this. I think it's something that we can do. I'll reach out to the recreation director to find
I
out.
did speak to, we did have a conversation about this, and I believe that this is covered by the registration fee.
Yes, that's what I was
It
gonna
is.
say.
It's
too.
covered by the
Yeah.
cost. Okay, then that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
It's not something we really want to buy. It's rented every year and it's covered by the cost.
As long as it's covered by the cost.
Yes.
On the 59461 business cards, at the expense that it was to get I will reimburse the township for that.
Just so you know, Councilmember DeStacy, we just found out that we can start making our own. So this will be the last time that I order them from the copy center.
Well, I will reimburse the township. I don't want them paying for my,
It wasn't, that was yours and Council Member Tadrick's.
okay, so half of that would be I'll contact you and find the amount. Then, thank you for that. On 59466, outfitting of vehicles for $48,802. Could you detail that, please?
I would need to find out what department that's from. We have the DPW and police and our inspectors' vehicles and our fire department chief's vehicles on that, so I'd have to pull that PO to see which one it was. Regardless, it could be outfitting police vehicles, so it could be cages, it could be bars, it could be lights. It's also, it could be, if it's for DPW, it could be the outfitting of that vehicle, whether it's the snow plows on it or the hydraulic systems that go into them. It could be any of those, so I'd have to pull that specific
Okay,
purchase order. I can get you a copy tomorrow.
if you could maybe forward that to me by email and I'll share, or to all of us. That
Yeah,
would,
we have the back of the system. We'll get that to you.
thank you. And on 59480, planner septic water use plans for 15,000. What is that?
I would need to pull that back up for that one. This could be for the watershed management plan. I would have to see exactly what this is for.
It could have been, that was covered by a grant, correct?
It could be. I
Yeah.
want to check.
Okay, so again, if you could detail that and let us know if it's covered in particular. Thank you.
And if you look at those in advance, our council member, and let us know before the meeting, we can have that answer for you here at the meeting. So
Very good.
please,
I will do that next time.
thank you.
Do you have anything, Mr. Sparta? Mr. Tadrick, do you have any questions or comments about the bills list?
Nope.
No? Okay. We'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the February 6th, 2020 special meeting, minutes from the February 27th regular meeting, March 9th special budget hearing, March 13th executive session, and March 13th regular meeting. Can we do these all at once, or do we need to separately? Is everybody
Unless someone wants them.
pulled out? Okay.
I mean, I'll vote on all, but just abstain on March 9th, that's all.
Okay. Is everyone comfortable then doing them all at once?
Yes.
Rizzuto, you comfortable?
Yeah,
Mr.
Yeah.
Tadrick?
yeah, if you're going to abstain,
Yeah.
just know the date.
Okay. All right. May I have a motion to approve the minutes for February 6th, February 27th, March 9th, March 13th, executive, March 13th, regular meeting?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. DeStacy. May I have a second?
Second,
Second by Mr. Sparta. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes.
Here.
Councilmember DeStacy,
Here.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
yes, but abstain on March 9th.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Yes.
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. And now we're going to the consent agenda. I'll read through the resolutions. And then if anyone wants to, let me know. Resolution 2393, resolution accepting the completion of road improvements project to Barrett Road and Glenwood Mountain Road. Resolution 2394, resolution to award HVAC maintenance services contract to Air Group LLC, HVAC maintenance company for bids 25-05/22R-05. Resolution 2395, authorizing change order number 2 of contract for proposed improvements of milling and paving of Barrett Road and Glenwood Mountain Road with Riverview Paving, Inc. Resolution 2396, authorizing change order number 2 of contract for proposed improvements of Old Coach Road and Pleasant Valley Road within Vernon Township with Tilcon New York LLC. Resolution 2397, a resolution in support of bill number S 3732 regarding supplemental state aid for certain school districts. Resolution 2398, resolution appointment to the Vernon Township Municipal Utility Authority. Resolution 2399, resolution requesting acceptance of $12,337 with township cash match of $3,084.25 for recreational opportunities for individuals with disabilities grant. Resolution 23-100, governing body certification of compliance with the United States Equal Employment Opportunity Commission's enforcement guidance on the consideration of arrest and conviction records and employment decisions under the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Is there, are there any resolutions that anyone wishes to remove on separately?
No.
Mr. Patrick? No?
No, I'm good.
Rizzuto, you're good. All right. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion.
Motion made by Ms. Discassi. May I have a second? I'll second it. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Discussi.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Yes.
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next subject on the agenda is the introduction of the 2023 municipal budget. Our CFO, Ms. Wright, has a presentation that she's going to share in a moment. This is an introduction of the budget. We will not be adopting the budget at this time. If council members have questions or issues they'd like to address, or perhaps ask if they could be updated or changed, that can be done by resolution. So this is not an adoption. It is an introduction.
Just like to add one more thing. After the budget is introduced, there will be a public hearing that's required for the public to ask questions regarding the budget as well. The introduction is the first step of the budget process.
But the public will have an opportunity to ask questions at a later date as well.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna move.
Okay, if we go down below and
Yeah, so.
I'm just gonna add one comment.
Mhm.
If there is 1 penny of tax addition, I vote no. I'll give you that heads up right now.
Donna, are you on?
Okay. No,
Sorry.
yeah, my chair.
Oh, I might be on as you.
Oh, yeah, wait, I see you.
Can you just change my name?
No, wait, which? Oh, you got it. Thanks, Alex. Fine.
Thank you, Ms. Rinka.
See. Sounds.
I did accept.
You did?
Yeah.
Not connecting?
No, it's just. I'm trying to get Donnell as a panelist. Failed to change role of panelist. Oh,
It's weird because I accepted it.
Don't worry about it. Take it.
Yeah, let me do it. I'll log out.
sorry,
No, it's fine.
I have so much,
Let me make sure I'm not logged in as you, which could be the issue.
that's why. Changed your name.
Yeah, so let me do. That's what happened.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Should now be a panelist.
Perfect.
You are.
Can you enable share screen? Can I do that?
Yep.
Gracious.
No, they don't. I'm sharing my screen.
Oh, please power, press power again.
Okay.
Voila, we got something?
Yeah, we'll see.
Eureka.
Oh, goodness.
Well, let's see.
Wait, did you just hit? No.
I,
You can't share your screen.
oh. So I should stop sharing?
Yeah, what? Yes. Here, I'll come to you.
I did,
I think you have to go to like settings.
yeah.
Oh, no, click advanced settings. Okay, that should be fine.
Yeah.
That should work. Okay. Somebody just knocked on my computer.
Really?
I don't know why it's not coming up on here. It would just working. Just have this up and running. All right,
There you go. Even in the age of technology, we humans are still the
there we
best.
go. Okay, I wish I could get rid of this, but I cannot. So I apologize to everybody online. Does this look clear to everybody?
I moved it over, Donnell.
It's a little
A little fuzzy?
fuzzy,
Is
but
that better?
yeah, it's better.
Clear online.
It's clear online. That's all the matter.
Yeah.
That's better.
Oh, yeah, it's just very clear online.
Can you guys see this okay? Yeah. We're okay. All right, cool.
All right,
It's fine.
better to look at it this way then. Yeah.
All right. So let's begin. Vernon Township's 2023 municipal budget accounts for an operations budget that addresses services and obligations for a four-season municipality of over 68 square miles. Our township is claimed as home by over 23,000 people and visited by tens of thousands each year for the beauty of the Appalachian Trail and active recreational activities offered year-round by Mountain Creek and other local businesses in town. This is a summary of our 2023 current fund budget. There is an increase in capital debt and debt expenses of 1.5% over last year, which reflects an emphasis on cash capital and reducing our debt obligations over time for certain shorter-lived purchases and improvements. Majority of smaller equipment with useful lives 10 years or less are paid for in cash, while other longer term items and larger purchases like roadways are put into debt obligations. Increase in revenues anticipated of $90,000 is what we'll see in this year's budget. We had to remove the vacant property list revenue stream, and we did not have a large influx of revenue from a property sale like we did in 2022. However, we did see a payment for municipal property tax relief from the state last year, which we were able to anticipate this year. We are also anticipating use of the funds accumulated last year in this year's fund balance usage. Through the use of revolving fund balance and increase in other revenues, the amount to be raised by taxation increased on average of 2.8% over 2 years, as there was no increase in last year's amount to be raised by taxation.
May I please ask if you could slow down a little bit to hear those numbers rapid fire like that?
Sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Problem. Mhm. So this is the 2023 municipal budget. Operations account for 56% of our municipal budget. Debt, capital, and deferred charges, which we have no deferred charges this year. Last year, we had 200,000 for our reval. So capital, debt, and deferred charges account for the next highest at 16%, followed by our reserve for uncollected taxes at 8%. Our statutory obligations for Social Security and pension payments are also accounting for 8%. Our SCUMA bill accounts for 8% of our budgeted costs, which is then followed up by utilities and grants and shared services, all at 2% each. Our local tax rate moved from 0.676 to 0.647 with the annual revaluation program. This year's budget equates to an annual $91.46 increase on the average home, which sits at $310,000, up from last year's $237,500 average assessed home. The average municipal portion of the homeowner's tax bill equates to $1,699 per year, which is less than the average family of four cell phone bill by $941. Comparing 2023 to 2022. Last year, we used $900,000 from our fund balance, but we also used $600,000 of property sale funding that would have fallen into fund balance to offset an increase in property taxes. So if you consider those two together, we essentially used $1.5 million in fund balance last year. Having fund balance is important for situations that arise like we did in COVID a couple of years ago in 2020, and also help to offset large expenses we do not anticipate, such as large repairs in current operations like fire trucks, ambulances, etc. We're still on track with paying down larger than minimum payments on our short-term debt obligations. We've paid back a staggering $4.8 million on short-term notes since 2019 versus $1.2 million in the 3 years prior to 2019. We have also increased the amount we're paying for in cash for our capital projects, moving from $275,000 in 2018's budget to $1.9 million in cash capital items this year. This reduces overall debt in the future while still addressing current and future capital needs. These are the 2023 budget highlights. Cash capital items increased by $321,500 from last year's budget. There was a decrease in debt service of $244,000, which was then used to invest back into our capital plan. So you see that increase of 321. Part of that is from the decrease in the debt service. We just moved it into capital to help pay for projects. We've continued our shared services for animal control, and we also added one shared service for gasoline with the Board of Education. We're staying in line with our capital plans for 2023 and moving forward on items that need to be addressed. We're also still focused on better long-term planning by putting money aside for future capital needs. That's what you'll see in the budget as specific reserves for departments. That is paid off this year with prior reserves for the emergent need for an updated fire apparatus. So services in the township. In order to run the everyday operations of the municipality and maintain the required offices, there are various departments within the town. These offices process building and zoning permits, food handler licenses, marriage licenses, birth and death certificates, OPA requests, court transactions, and animal licensing. They also collect taxes, assess values to the properties in town, process tax appeals, process farmland assessment, run the land use board, process invoices, and make deposits and handle payroll. Public safety encompasses our 24/7 service from the police department, fire, and emergency medical services, as well as dispatching and the Office of Emergency Management. It includes contributions to 4 volunteer fire departments and 2 volunteer ambulance services, as well as costs for equipment repairs, hose and fit testing, and other state mandated safety testings. Our fire prevention office, which conducts fire inspections, investigations, investigates fires, and teaches our school children about fire safety, is also included in this number. Listed here are just a few of the incredible community outreach programs provided by our police department as a way to engage more with the public. The DPW is responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of our roadways, responding to plowing over 100 miles of roadway plus during each storm. And they handle drainage projects and maintenance, brush control, the recycling center, and maintenance of all grounds. Parks and Recreation is responsible for all recreation programs in the township in conjunction with the PAL. They handle the farmers market as well as community garden and maintenance of all parks in the township. Our insurance lines include unemployment, health insurance costs after employee contributions, workers' compensation, liability, life insurance, and disability. There are items that are entirely out of our control of our municipal budget, but they still have an effect on our budget directly and indirectly. Directly, we're affected by FICA, which is Social Security and Medicare, and pension payments. The state increased this year by 10%. Debt service is derived from our existing schedules and the urge to pay down some of our bad debt. Last year was the final year on our revaluation note and our special emergency for the reval 4 years ago. We reinvested that $200,000, as I mentioned earlier, back into the capital program. Lastly, the county and school tax levies are handled and billed in your local tax bill. However, they still affect our bottom line as the township is required to send the full billed amounts regardless of our collections. That's why we have something called a reserve for uncollected taxes. And this is an amount that we calculate based on last year's collections. This substantially decreased this year due to an increase in collections in 2022. In total, the average Vernon taxpayer is paying $4.64 per day for the municipal budget. Included in these costs are long-term issues such as debt management and a capital plan that continues to reduce our reliance on debt for the future. It includes plans that continue to reduce future debt burdens by permanently financing debt at low interest rates when available, foreclosing on old tax title liens on vacant lots so those properties can be sold and put back on the tax rolls, growing our fund balance for future emergent situations, and increasing efficiency while still providing top-notch services to our residents. We're looking towards the future, moving Vernon forward and appropriating funds accordingly. That is all I have. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. All right, may I have a motion to introduce the 2023 municipal budget? Make a motion?
I can't make a motion.
Make a motion to introduce the budget?
It's got to be discussed. There's only one way to do it. That's to introduce it. Introducing it doesn't necessarily mean you're approving it.
No, it does not. There's an opportunity for us to discuss it.
I'll make a motion to introduce for discussion only.
Okay, motion made by Ms. Distassi. May I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Rizzuto. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember DeStacy? Yes. Councilmember Rizzuto?
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta?
No.
Councilmember Cadrick?
Yes, for discussion.
President Bucieri,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay. So we all have received a copy, more detailed copy of the budget,
Yes.
in addition to the presentation made by, right? Does anyone have a question or something they'd like to start? Patrick?
Guess my question is, the slides were really pretty. How much is the tax rate supposed to go up? If at all?
I believe the tax rate is gonna go up 5.6%.
It's $91 for the year on the average home.
Then I'll be voting no on that.
5.46. It was 5.6%. It was 2.8, and that was split for 2 years. Okay, so it's a 5.6% increase. So,
I'll be voting no on that then.
okay.
My comment would be, I'd like to see the budget taken back and worked on to reduce all operating expenses exclusive of essential service by a minimum of 10%. I would also like to see that the reserves be cut back. I personally do not save when my budget is tight, and I do not see how we can afford this year to be saving money into reserves when we are asking our citizens to pay almost 6% increase.
It is a significant increase. Does anyone else have any comments on particular issues of the budget, Mr. Sparta?
I have a lot of payroll issues. I don't know if now's the time to discuss them or not.
Well, if there are specific, the mayor proposes the budget, the council has to approve it.
Mhm.
Okay, if there are specific changes that any council member wants to make to the budget, or send those numbers, information to me. And we'll take a look at that.
Just a general statement I have is in the packet that was in our mailboxes, right?
Yes,
There's numbers in there from 2022 and then 2023. And on the payroll end of it, there seems to be some considerable increases in the amount from 2022 to 2023. I mean, 12.5%, 11.1%, 12.5%, 10.9%. And the majority of them are over 6, which I think is extremely generous in so I don't know if there is a reason behind any of that. I mean, there's also, compared to the employee census that we got, there is differences in numbers per department on there to what's reported in the packet that we have in, that was in our mailbox. For instance, animal control. Now, animal control has a ton of shared services to it. The 2022 number for payroll was 80. For 23, it was 90. But when I add up the salaries that were in our census, it's 180,000. What makes up that difference?
The shared services that move into there.
Okay, so why don't we see,
And you also have an offset for due from trust of 65,000.
oh, sorry, what was that?
An offset from the animal trust for 65,000.
Okay, but why don't we see the accurate payroll in the budget then? Because it obviously, the payroll should show up as an appropriations or an expense, correct? And the shared services should show up as a revenue, correct?
It's shared services, a revenue and an appropriation.
It's a revenue and an appropriation.
So when you have a shared service where you receive funding, revenue, you also create an appropriation to offset where that money is going.
That just,
Money moves over. So what I do on my end for finance in my system is I move, once the budget is adopted, I move my shared service amounts into the places where they need to go.
So it's already off.
So that's why those numbers, yes.
so now there are other departments here that I don't think have any shared services in here. That there's a revenue administration. Is there any shared services in that?
Yes,
There is.
yeah, that's tax collection.
What's the amount of the shared service?
There's a portion that goes into that from. Same thing with finance and same thing with administration.
Uniform fire safety, there's shared service?
No,
Okay,
but there was a reallocation of one individual that works more in fire prevention than they do in building.
and that's why that went up 11.1
So that's why it was corrected.
and
Someone was working 3 days in that department versus the 1 day as opposed to last year.
Versus the floater.
senior citizens, is there a shared service agreement there?
Yeah, we have a shared service with the county. And with senior citizens, for years, we had a program with the county where it was based on individual certain income levels. And over 4 to 5 individuals from the county that worked for the county, they were on their payroll and they would come and help us in the senior center. After COVID happened, for whatever reason, those individuals no longer qualified for that program. So we didn't have those 4 to 5 individuals to help serve downstairs. So we had to hire part-time staff in order to be able to serve the seniors.
County says we're not qualified for it any longer?
It's not that we qualify, it's individuals with certain income levels qualify for that program to work for
Oh.
the county, and the county would send them to us. So
County
they said
changes standards.
right, those individuals no longer qualified, so we didn't have that,
So we kept the individuals, but now we pay them?
we didn't keep the individuals.
Okay.
We hired,
We had some other
yeah,
part-time
we hired part-timers.
Vernon people.
I believe one used to be with that program, but I'm not 100% sure.
So do they still have the program at the county? Those people just didn't meet?
They don't have any, if they do, they don't have anyone available to come to us.
Come to us. Gotcha.
And to be clear, we didn't hire 5 people. I think we hired 3 part-timers.
In the court, there is an employee whose name is the same as a police officer. Are they the same people or no?
They're not the same people.
When with the shared service that we have with the school district, how do we work that? Do you take that off of what we send them or do they pay us separately?
So they pay us separately for that. And then so I have revenue and appropriation. I don't really know exactly what that number is going to be. It was an estimate.
Yeah.
So I did it at 20,000. So what I will do is I'm going to move that 20,000 on the appropriation side over to the gasoline side
Gotcha.
to account for that increase in gasoline.
And do you bill them monthly then? Because they're using a swipe card?
Yeah, yes.
Thing?
Correct. They also have a capital portion that they pay.
And that stays the same. And then so the capital portion is consistent and then the gas it's per gallon.
Correct.
Changes.
Right.
Yeah, I have a problem with the fund balance concept. Not that I'm against saving, but at some point, I think the amount of fund balance that we're putting away becomes excessive. And I think onerous to the individual taxpayer, especially when you're taking it out, when you're generating a certain amount of money from the operating budget from the previous year, taking that amount, adding it to your fund balance for the succeeding year, and then taking some out of that and, using it for the succeeding year's budget. At some point, we're going to be looking at an increasing rate, which is going to be very, very substantial. Last year, I think we were in the area of 6 million. Now we're going to be closer to 9. That's an increase of 1/3. We're probably looking at a fund balance, which will now which will be about 25% of the total budget. I think that's a little heavy. Again, I think it's something that needs to be discussed. I think perhaps the council's input on this in an individual sense, meaning by the council, since the council can begin to talk about that, And, you know, do we really need to have a level of, you know, savings at that level, especially when people are very, very stressed in terms of expenses, in terms of trying to meet, you know, regular needs. So I just think that's something that needs to be really discussed and discussed completely. Even if at some point it requires a, you know, a thorough reconsideration of the concept in terms of how much and planning to do with it. The idea is that I'd like to try and pay everything on a pay-as-you-go basis is nice, but sometimes it's just not available, hence the availability of debt service. And I think your comments earlier this evening were right on target that perhaps, you know, the smaller items you should be able to pay on a pay-as-you-go basis, but only those items that have a very long depreciation schedule or those that are required by the state to have a long bonding schedule, that should be considered. So hence, I think you could probably take a few bucks more out of the bank.
I have a couple of questions on trust funds. What would be, you have $500,000 in the compensated absences. What is that?
We have a reserve for compensated absences because there are payouts based on contractual obligations
Payouts for all contracts?
for all contracts, for vacation, sick time.
And
There's,
that's,
and there are limits on those amounts, but our liability far exceeds what's in that trust fund.
so that's required by statute?
It's not required by statute, but it's smart. It's smart financing to ensure that you have that money set aside so you're not taking it in the budget. If I had 5 retirements this year in in the largest department in the town, that would be significant and you would have to budget for that if you didn't have the trust funds.
So this is another reserve account then, basically.
Correct.
And the 500,000 that's in storm recovery?
Exact same thing. So the idea is that if you have a terrible winter and you exceed what you have appropriated, you have the ability to pull from your trust funds.
Is there anywhere in either of those that we can use funds to offset this budget?
You can't use funds from a trust fund to offset a budget.
Okay, just checking.
So back to the trust fund for the salary and wages. So that's if a retiree says, I'm gonna cash out my unused sick time, that limit, because there's a limit on that.
The limit for sick
Right.
time. Mhm.
Yeah, and then, so that's where those funds will come from there.
Correct.
The last one is
How do you-
council on,
Oh, I'm sorry.
How do-
On that.
How do,
council on affordable housing.
hold on.
Right.
Which one?
Go ahead, Peg.
Well, the last one I wanted to ask about was the council on affordable housing.
That's an existing trust fund that we have, so that funds come in and they get deposited into there for development.
And what is that used for?
It would be used for affordable housing in the future. That was established probably decades ago when affordable housing was
And we're
established.
still adding to it, it's showing here.
Correct.
Where do those funds from?
From development,
Okay.
Developers.
The developer's obligated to put something in there.
Money into it, okay, got it.
And where do the funds come for the?
reserve for accumulated absences, usually at the end of every year, I put forth a resolution before council and I said, these are some unused funds that we have from salaries and wages. Let's move it into accumulated absences so we can fund that so that we're not funding it in the budget in the future.
Is there any money in this budget for new employees?
New employees.
Yeah.
We have one new road repairer, which we had considered hiring last year. They've had, I think, it was a while ago, maybe 8 years ago or so, they cut the road department significantly.
Yeah.
So you didn't answer my question.
For one employee in the road department.
So you're saying there would only be at maximum one employee hired in the next year?
We're hiring employees to replace others, but yes, I have
Well,
one.
I mean, yeah,
employee.
if it's not, I know if it's somebody leaving, that's replacement, but I
Okay,
mean.
I
new
just want to make
employees.
sure, I just want to make clear about that, yes. One
Yeah, new
employee.
employees.
Mhm.
And I have a different way of looking at this. The mayor said, let the council give us examples on what we want to cut. That's not our job. That's not our job. That's your job. That's the department head jobs. That's the CFO's job. That's the
Mr.
BA's
Clark,
job to determine if we say we're going to give you no tax increase, 0. Peg said -10. That's even better. But if we say that's what we're giving you, then it's you to go back and figure out how to use that money. It's not for us to tell you. I'm not an expert in each department. And I wouldn't jump in there to be an expert. That's what you do.
The budget
I-
that is,
ahead.
council member, the budget as I have proposed it is one that I think that we need to operate in an effective and efficient manner. If the council chooses not to pass that budget, then we'll take the next step in terms of what that really might be. If there are specific cuts that individual council members want to make, we can make those cuts and identify what it will really mean. And the council can pass the budget and we'll go ahead, but everybody will know exactly what it really means.
Well, what it really means is I'm not going to vote for anything that's a penny extra in tax. So I'm going to say no to anything with any kind of tax increase. So my argument back to you is, and to the administration is, that's what I'm telling you. I don't know what the other council people are telling you or going to vote. But if everybody says no more taxes, 0 tax increase, just like last year, it then behooves you folks in the administration to figure out how to get that money and spend down and how to cut. It's not our job. I don't think it's our job in the council to go back and say, well, you should cut this in this department, and this. That's not our job. That's your job.
I hear your statement.
I work for the federal government, and the federal government says you're taking a 5% cut across the board. We don't care what you do with it. That's all the money you're getting, 5% less. You figure out how to spend it. And that's your job in the administration, not ours. I mean, I don't think it's my job. That's for sure. So that's just my standing on it.
Well, I hear your statement that you said that you won't vote for an increase. I hear that. That's fine. That's whatever. We will be wherever we'll be. So that's not a problem for me, and it's not a problem for you. We'll just go through the process.
Yeah, no problem with that.
All right.
I'm being honest up front with you.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Stassi?
No.
I do agree with what Mr. Rosito said about the fund balance. I definitely understand, having a savings account and personally, as a homeowner, having that savings account. I think in excess of, we're nearing $7 million right now, almost 22% of the budget. It's nice. It's a nice to have, but I don't think it's a have to have. And I agree that should be something that we can hopefully look at perhaps, and maybe adjust that number. Take a pencil to some other numbers.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I'll be happy to talk to you. I mean,
we can address the fund balance. There are other implications to that. I believe that at some point in time, we had like 3 years in a row in our town, if I remember correctly, where we had no municipal tax increase.
Right.
Am I right, Mr. Rizzuto?
Yep.
And I believe the way that was done was by taking money, I believe, from the fund balance.
Mhm.
The net effect. Okay, but the net effect was that that affects our, I guess what I'll call our credit rating, our bond rating. There are positive and negatives. So if the council wants to take more money out of the fund balance and put into the budget.
I don't want to decimate the fund.
No, I know.
Balance,
Yeah.
not to overuse the
Well,
word balance, but I think there's a balance.
From 25 to 30% down to whatever.
Yeah.
That'll be, for what future councils and mayors will have to deal with the year after that. I mean, we'll have to deal with this somehow. So
I'm not saying we shouldn't have a fund balance. I'm not saying we should kick the can down the road. I don't know if we need to have it at 22%, and by the end of the year, going upwards of.
understand.
Definitely agree in paying down debt, having cash available. I think, our CFO has done a great job in that respect, in that regard, and paying down, it's nice to hear we have over $200,000 less in debt service. Now we can, it's like when you pay off one credit card for your home budget,
Right.
but that money that you were paying, now you put it to your car payment and you're paying that down faster. I appreciate that. I just don't know if we need to have nearing 25 or plus% in our fund balance. I know it's a nice to have, right? But is it with the inflation rate and our home, our Vernon citizens facing huge increases of their own, is it something that we could maybe adjust a little bit?
Okay.
Not decimate it. I don't want to kick the can down the road. I'm not.
No, I hear clearly what you're saying.
I think we need to, maybe you need to reprioritize some things. That's something.
The debt that, Danelle, you spoke down that we're aggressively paying down. What interest rate is that debt at?
They change annually, so we have short-term notes, like there's debt service that we're locked into for our bonds. But every time we take out a note, we pay them down currently off of a 10-year schedule to ensure that we're paying them off, so that what happened before, when I came on in 2018, the township had $30 million in debt, over $30 million in debt. And we were making minimum payments on that. So that equated to, like, on a note that was $700,000, it equated to $10,000. That does not get paid off in 10 years, right? And that issue, the debt that was being taken out for all those years was not good debt. Those were not long-term investments. Those were investments in a police vehicle that lasts 4 years, right? I think our interest rate for the debt service that's in this budget was 2.7% on one note, and I think 1.6% on another.
Okay, so why would we aggressively be paying that down when that money is pretty cheap?
That money's not cheap. It's $138,000 in interest.
0.6%, it's cheap money,
But that was taken out last year.
right? But
So a note was taken out last year at one.
so what I asked you was, what was the interest rate that we are aggressively paying down the debt? And the only interest rates I heard was 1.6% and 2 something.
2.7. The second one we took out was for 2.7.
So again, what is the interest rate that we are paying aggressively down on the debt?
So, like I just said, the notes that were taken out last year,
Are they the ones that we are aggressively paying down?
yes.
Okay, then again, why are we aggressively paying down money that's only at 1.6%?
Because that interest rate increases every day. Because the market today is different than it was a year ago.
So what is it today? You're not answering.
The last update I got was like 3 weeks ago, so I'd have to look up today's current note interest rate, but we don't go out for a note sale until August. So it'd be whatever August would be.
So you purchase the note, you have that interest rate for so many months, and then you have to readjust come August.
Right.
So basically municipal works like this. We do a bond ordinance, like hopefully we'll introduce a bond ordinance tonight, right? As soon as I take out the cash for that, in order to get the cash, I take out a note. That note is good for 1 year. We go out for a note sale. They give me a 2.7% interest rate. Next year, I owe 2.7% on that note. It goes into next year's budget, right? With the increasing interest rates that we've seen between last year and this year, that has increased substantially between last year's budget that we had the note O&E line versus this year's interest note O&E line, like substantially. So
Have a 6.5% average inflation rate in New Jersey, and you're paying down a 2% or 3% at the most interest rate on bonds. So you're
last year,
higher, you're paying what Brad has said, you're paying down low interest rates with high interest money. It makes no sense.
So when will the interest rate go up? In August?
I'm sorry.
When will that interest rate go up? You said it will.
It goes up like daily. I mean, the interest rates that are out there right now, like
Yeah, I understand, but on our note, when will we see an increase?
August.
In August, so we have the lower rate.
August, it'll be for next year's budget. So if there is a 5% note, we go out and do a sale on notes in August and we get back a 5% interest rate. That's what we will be paying on that note for next year. That's why it's important to pay down. If we can pay down some of that,
I understand.
some of that debt, it's going to be less money. Also, I will say that you guys have a taxable note, which is not favorable to buyers. So we have a taxable note because this town took out debt when Mountain Creek was not paying us in 2012, 13, 14, 15, and 16. They took out notes. That's taxable note. That's the interest rate's like anywhere from 1% to 2% higher than a regular note, than a non-taxable note.
So your goal, and I just want to understand this, for those that we're talking about, not the Mountain Creek ones, but the one you're talking about now, 1.6 and 2.8, was it? They could go up significantly in August. So you want to pay down as much as you can now so that whatever that balance is on those notes is lower, so the interest rate is less of an impact. Is that, am I understanding this correctly? Okay. Does that make sense? I'm not saying you have to like it, but I'm just asking, does that answer your
It makes
question?
sense when you have, a flat economy, not when you have a high inflation rate. Sorry, I don't agree with taking high inflationary dollars and paying down a low interest. It doesn't make sense to me.
But do you understand that the interest rate's gonna bump up and that's why?
It's still
It's
cheap,
not-
it's still cheaper than the inflation.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay.
Here, I will say we're also in a situation that because the notes were taken out every single year for something like Mountain Creek and we bonded the other ones, but we did not bond that Mountain Creek sewer debt, whatever you want to call it. Those come due every year. So because they were taken out every year, they're going to be due for permanent debt service, which means you're going to have to pay for a bond to be taken out on and it's going to be a taxable bond. And you have to talk about the costs of doing a taxable bond plus the interest rate you're going to pay on that over the next however many years. So you have to look at, it's not just a short-term, it's not a short-term issue. It's a long-term issue.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Mountain Creek pay that, isn't that Mountain Creek's debt and we're just guaranteeing it?
Mountain Creek is paying us back.
Right.
For portions of that. But the issue is that those notes are coming due way before. Like they're coming due for permanent financing.
Mhm.
So
Right.
you would have to permanently finance $1 million or $2 million. I don't see, why would we do that?
I remember when that period of time between 2012, 13, 14, 15, money was very cheap. I mean, you were looking at 1% when they were bringing in notes here at 1.5, sometimes even less, depending on how they were bundled. So, let's look at it this way. To go ahead and say, you should have known that we were going to have 7% to 8% inflation rates in the year 2021, 2022. Back then would have been, people would have been saying, how can you understand? How can you believe that? We were living in the era of cheap money. So to go out and use your money at that point would have been very unwise financially. And that's not from the council. That was from the bond council and that we were working with. They said, why in heaven would you want to go out and take money and pay for it on a pay-as-you-go basis when you can borrow money for 1%, or in some cases less than that? So that was the basis of it. At this point now, things are beginning to change. However, if you look at the financial markets now and start making some inquiries, they're talking about a diminution now of interest rates going forward next year and into the following year. Because I think what's happening is they're seeing that there's a capitulation in the market for those types of high interest rates and that they're starting to retreat a little bit. But that's speculation. And that's why we have the professionals. And they may tell us exactly the opposite and we'll be considered dunderheads, 10 years from now, just like, where people are saying now, so. But I really think that becomes a consideration. You simply can't say, we ill-advisedly took out notes at this level when those notes were very, very cheap. Why not build things with somebody else's money costing you less than a penny on, I do it right now. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So
Comment?
clerical error, my term is not right on here.
Change that.
Okay,
Again, if you have any specifics, please communicate those to us.
My specifics are 10% across the board. Everybody. Whatever it is, 10%, unless, except salaries and essential services. And salaries, if you can, cut. It's got to be a minimum year. We don't have money. We don't have any excess. It's got to be a minimum and less. That's my comments.
okay. I'm going to move on to the introduction.
Need to have a hearing, don't you?
Well, no, the budget
the
was
budget
not,
hearing
the
is-
budget was not introduced. It was introduced for discussion only.
Yep.
So it was not introduced.
Now we,
Right.
No, I thought you said there had to be a public hearing.
Yes, but
Well,
that's,
there does, but you guys haven't
Fine.
introduced it yet. You only introduced it for discussion purposes, so there is no introduction of the budget tonight.
okay.
That was the motion that was made.
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
approved.
for discussion only. I believe that's what you said
Pegs,
and Peg said, and,
I didn't say, because I wouldn't,
okay, or maybe that was what Joe said. Right?
yes, Joe did
Okay.
say.
So now we have to have another introduction, an official introduction.
Yes,
Okay. And then from that timeline, we have to have a public hearing.
yes.
can I make the motion to introduce the budget with a 10%? Is that,
The mayor presents the budget.
Yeah,
The mayor presents the budget.
okay? No, I meant make a motion to introduce the budget with the
I
10%.
don't think you can do that.
No, okay, fine.
No, but what you can do is you can make a motion to introduce the budget, and then if there are changes to that budget that the council would like made, we can make those changes via resolution at the next meeting.
I see no problem with that. That's what we did last year.
And then we're still on target for adoption at the end of April.
because we have to have the public hearing, how many days from the introduction of us?
It's 28 days from the
At least
publication.
it can't be, yes,
28
it has to be at least 28 days.
At least,
So
okay,
that's exactly the second meeting in April.
And then if there's no resolutions and nothing changed, then it's council's prerogative if they want to
pass it or not.
adopt it or not, right?
Yep.
So
Introduction is not the same as adoption.
adoption, yes.
Right.
So are we comfortable introducing it without the caveat that it's just for discussion, but just
Yeah.
introducing it? Okay. May I have a motion to introduce the 2023 municipal budget?
I'll make that motion.
A motion made by Mrs. Vacy. May I have a second?
Second,
Second made by Mr. Sparta. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember DeStacy,
Yes,
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
yes,
Councilmember Tadrick,
Yes,
Council President Bushieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. All right, introduction of ordinances, since 2310, capital ordinance providing for fire department apparatus by the township of Vernon in the county of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating therefore the sum of 340,000 and providing that sum so appropriated shall be raised from the capital improvement fund of the township. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 23-10?
moved,
Moved by Mr. Sparta. May I have a second?
second,
Second by Ms. Dispassy. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember DeStacy,
yes,
Councilmember Rizzuto,
yes,
Councilmember Sparta,
yes,
Councilmember Tadrick,
yes,
Council President Bushieri.
Yes,
Motion carried.
I know a couple of council members had questions about this. I think you've gotten answered. Does anybody have a question before we move on ordinance 2310? Tadrick?
I do. What's the apparatus?
It's for the McAfee's tanker. It's replacing a 27-year-old tanker.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
what
you.
happens to the old ones?
Some of them get traded in. We haven't. We doing it on this or we just?
I believe DPW is gonna take it and repurpose it into a roll-off truck.
what? A what?
Roll-off, trash truck, I guess, for the recycling center.
Oh, nice. Okay,
I heard, what their intention was with it.
good. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one quick one. Every house has a pumper.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nobody has two pumpers.
Two have two pumpers.
Two houses have two pumpers.
Yes, sir.
So why can't they be moved so everybody has one pumper? Just question.
Pumper carries 1,000 gallons of water, a tanker carries 2,500 to 3,000 gallons of water.
Okay, and we're getting a new
Tanker.
tanker? A
Yes, sir.
tanker. All right, so I screwed up. So does every house have a tanker?
Yes, sir.
Does any house have two tankers?
No, sir.
That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. Ordinance 2311. Ordinance of the Township of Vernon, County of Sussex, State of New Jersey, supplementing Chapter 5, Article 2, entitles Mayor and Council to make meeting minutes compliant with Daniel's Law. May I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2311? Motion made by Ms. Distassi. May I have a second? I'll second it. May I have a roll call vote?
Yes. Councilmember DeStassi,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Yes.
Council President Bucieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Does anybody have any questions about the ordinance? Ordinance 2312, bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of a new tire truck by the Township of Vernon and the County of Sussex, New Jersey, appropriating $845,300 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $320,300 bonds or notes of the township for financing such appropriation. May I have a motion to introduce 2312?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Sparta. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Distassi. May I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember DeStassi,
Yes.
Councilmember Rizzuto,
Yes.
Councilmember Sparta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tadrick,
Isn't that a correction? Is that a tire truck or a fire truck?
It's a fire truck.
Oh, I read tire too.
Fire truck.
What did I say?
Okay.
Fire truck.
Okay, thank you.
All
Yes.
right. Thanks, Joe. I should have caught that.
I'm sorry, did you vote? Mr.
I think you said yes.
Yes, yes, it did. Sorry.
Council President Bucieri.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. And we just talked about that. Any questions? We're good. No, okay. Public comment is limited to 5 minutes on any topic. One who wishes to speak before we do that, may I have a motion on the board of public comment? Moved by Mr. Sparta. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Distassi. All in favor?
Right.
Aye. Any opposed? No, the floor is open to anyone in person who would like to address the council. Is there anyone? Come on. Please just state your name for the record.
Mike Churchill.
Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. How are you this evening?
Good, thank you.
Just got some concerns about the budget and our.
To get a little closer.
Oh, I just got a concern about the budget and probably a tax increase going on. And my question is, and the CFO mentioned about the municipal relief, the property tax relief that the municipality did get. That's only the icing on the cake, you know. I haven't heard anything else like the finance tax that we should be getting, the energy tax that we should be getting from the utility companies, the railroad property taxes that we should be getting from the utility. That's revenue for the municipality. And I know, like back in '66, the state decided to be the collection agencies for all municipalities and take it from the municipalities and start divvying it up 25% to the county, 25% to the municipality, 50% to them. I feel that if it hasn't been done, I feel that us as a municipality, we should be getting on the state for those reliefs. That's our money. That's revenue. And I don't know if our tax rate's going up, our equalization valuation just went up again. I went on the county website and we're paying 100% of what our market value is for our home. That equals out to our assessment. That's ludicrous. So we're being hit by both ends here. We're being hit by AKA the director's ratio plus our tax rate. What's going on here? Why every year when they go over the valuation, somebody from our town has got to be there to that review. What's going on? How come anybody hasn't said, hey, listen, we don't want to pay the high level. We want a common level here. And I don't see this valuation going down. I've been tracking it for the past 3 years and it's been going up and up. So I personally think that it's unacceptable for high taxes when we should be getting all these reliefs back from the state. We should demand it. We're entitled to it. And I think that we should go at the county level and start arguing and saying, hey, why is Vernon at 100%? The highest in the county for the equalization valuation table. We pay the most. I really think that, just like that old saying, no taxation without representation. Well, somebody's got to get down there and tell them, hey, look, to the next county board taxation meeting and say, hey, listen, this is too much. Because that director's ratio plus an increase in our tax rate, it's gonna be too much for people.
Mr. Churchello, we do have the tax assessment meeting on Wednesday and there will be a county representative here. So those are definitely questions that I think, if you're able to come on Wednesday, would be, yeah.
Definitely.
And then a county representative along with our tax assessor will be here.
Right.
Those are definitely some questions that you can bring up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Looking for
I didn't mean to interrupt. You can continue. I just wanted to let you know that they would be here.
my time.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
all right, thank you. Is there anyone else in person? Mr. Clarkin?
My name is Sean Clarkin. I've been a resident since 1995. Started coming to meetings about maybe 5 years ago. I was really excited earlier, all right, Mr. Mayor, to present a document with the wrong scope of work on it for a project and ask for it to be paid and not have an explanation. I don't understand. I'm interested in doing an audit of the gas tank. I would just like to see what went well with the gas tank and if anything went wrong with the scope of work that was dictated for the gas tank. I would also like to see an audit of the pump track. What went good with the pump track? What went wrong with the pump track? I'd like to see those audits. We learn from our mistakes. And I've said this before probably because I can hear myself saying it. The fact that you walked in here, be careful because you went from bumbling an invoice with the wrong scope of work that the three of you never noticed it had the wrong scope of work. So somebody communicated something to a contractor and they responded with a piece of paper for $1,000 or whatever it was. And none of you saw it. None of you noticed that the scope of work was not correct. None of you confirmed it. And you roll right from that small daily mistake right into an annual budget. And if you can't get that piece of paper correct, you want me, a property taxpayer, to trust that you're doing all those other numbers correct? And you are raising out taxes? You can't even get a scope of work correct on a bid that went out to a contractor. And you're asking me to do this, to pay more money? This is ridiculous. I would separate your seats, especially you. You shouldn't sit next to them because it makes your reputation bad. You sound good, you speak well. I almost believe what you say, but sit next to these guys, you're in trouble. I assume you're all on the same team and you don't want to be on their team because they can't even get a piece of paper correct. I'm done with that, okay? I'm going to move on now. Sorry. If I get excited, it's the way I am. I'm a very nervous person. Okay, so moving forward, replacement employees. All right, my first question is, the 3 employees hired by the recreation department or the senior citizen department, because we lost employees that were volunteers that the county was paying for. Is the money paying those 3 part-time employees in our budget last year? Where did that money come from? Did the town council approve the hiring of those 3 part-time employees? Or were they hired because we didn't get the replacement, so we just went on the side and we hired 3 people? Because I know in a year or 2 from now, you're going to be telling me why 1 or 2 of those part-timers needs to be full-time and get health benefits and everything else. I know that's going to come. But where did the money come from to hire those 3 people that are now working for our municipality part-time? And did the council approve them? Okay. Moving forward, any employee who needs to be replaced, the council should approve that, because we need to pare down. We need to maximize the workload of each employee. And if we can cut fat someplace and not replace somebody who's retiring, we should not replace them. Tough times are coming. I hope everybody here knows what just happened over with the schools, right? Big cutbacks. Guess what? It's coming in your direction next. Okay, so don't replace people unless the town council gives you permission. All right. And again, I apologize. I'm not really excited. I'm just very nervous speaking in public. Okay. All right, 3 part-timers. We discussed that. Okay, where did the budget money come from? Does anybody want to answer that? Did you guys know that 3 part-time employees were hired? You knew that? Okay, thanks. Okay, Barrett Road, I'm sorry, I only looked at the agenda right before running down here. I drive on Barrett Road 3 times a day. Are we paying some work that was already done on Barrett Road, or are you doing something else on Barrett Road?
I think Ms. Bright can answer that quickly, right?
It was a change order.
The change order.
Okay, so they're gonna come and do different work?
No, it was for work that was done.
Okay,
But there was,
I'd like to know when,
Change order were required to do it
okay,
by a resolution.
okay, and how long ago was that work done? Last December, when the road was ripped up for months?
I don't know the exact date.
It was 2021. That road was ripped up from by months. Again, another project that should be audited. And I'm sorry, I'm not throwing rocks at anybody, but at some point, I think we need to, being a jack of all trades, a master of none. Barrett Road was opened up, very narrow. One side of the road you couldn't even touch. It's a dangerous road to start with. And it was like that forever. Forever.
you have 20 seconds, Mr.
I got 20, thanks. All right, okay. Having the budget, we know we're gonna go over the budget. This is my last one, Mayor. It's another shot at you. Where we know we're gonna go over the budget. We have things in the budget to go over. The staff, the employees that work for you should have answers. Council members should not have to give you their questions. Council members should be able to ask questions during the meeting and get answers from employees. Thank you very much. Thank you. Sorry for being excited.
Good night. Is there anyone else in the public? Mr. Higgins?
Hi, Bill Higgins from Glenwood section. Number one, I want to thank the council for asking the questions that they did ask. Because last year I was here at the presentation, same lady you made your presentation, and this year you did the same thing. I asked last year, do you give a little more details? This year you did the same thing. You read a presentation. You were going so fast. Mr. Stassi asked you to slow down, so it made sense to people. Well, it made sense to the board. And then whenever the request of a 5-point-some% increase, I can't believe that you would present that budget there. I just can't believe it. What nerve? I mean, and it's not only last year I asked a question, how much was being held in reserve? Well, it turns out now we're hearing that there was almost $6 million of reserve. Now you want to hold $9 million. That's 25% of the budget. And then the Board of Education, they held at 11 million last year, but percentage wise, you're at a fantastic rate, 25% of the budget. That's the taxpayers' money. It's not your money. It's not your money. You can have a reserve for contingencies. That's fine. 25% of a budget. And I'm so happy that the board is asking those questions for the details. 10% raises are in the budget. There's so much in this budget that is just fictitious. It's the taxpayers' money. And hopefully the board, from what I heard, I have confidence that this is not going to go through. I mean, it really can't be. And but our trust is in you. I like the answers and questions he asked, and do the right thing, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the public that has a comment? Is there anybody virtually, Marcy?
Yes, I have Tom McClackery.
McClackery?
Yes, good evening. A couple of quick questions. You know, the budget presentation, as has been said, was fairly simple. And actually, you should not be looking at year to year. You should be looking at year to 3 years, year to 5 years back. That way you can see where the increases in the budget were. And number two would be, you can, I assume at some point, and the CFO probably advise you, you can delay introduction and approval of the budget if you petition the state. So my question is, what's the latest date that you can do that? And I assume now that you unfortunately have introduced it, that I can get a copy of the budget, and you will be putting the budget itself on the webpage. I assume this. And last but not least, with all respect, I happen to agree with Mr. Sparta and Mr. Tadrick, and I owe them a FUBAR budget beer down at the VFW. Thank you and good night.
Is there anyone else, Marcy?
Yes, Jessica Palladini.
Ms. Palladini?
Good evening. First, I want to thank and commend each and every one of you on the council for asking great questions and bringing up some great concerns. From the public perspective, I want to say that this is perhaps one of the biggest puff presentations of the municipal budget I have ever seen in the 30 or 35 years I have closely monitored Vernon Township municipal budget. I asked for a copy of the budget, and I was told I could not get one until it was introduced. In all the years I've ever attended council meetings, whether in person or virtually, there has always been copies of the budget on that table in front of you. I don't see any tonight. And I told the clerk that I expect one in my email box tomorrow morning, or as soon after tonight as is possible. I want to be told that it only costs me $4 and some odd cents a day for municipal services. Told what those municipal services are. I think we all know what the police department does, the DPW does, recreation does. We don't need things puffed up to some grandstand to be told, look at all the things your municipality does. I want to see line items. And as Mr. Tadrick asked, thank you, Mr. Tadrick, I want to see the tax rate. I want to see last year's tax rate. I want to see the tax rate the year before that. And I want to see the current tax rate. Stop treating us like we are irrelevant idiots. I don't want to know that an average family of four's cell phone bill cost far more than what we pay in the municipal budget or the increase or whatever. Show me the numbers. Where are they? Why didn't we get any of that tonight? Am I right to assume that we have only 92% collection of taxes this year? Is that what the CFO said? Can you please answer that?
I think we had more, right?
96.9.
We had 96.9.
Okay, that's not so bad. I thought I heard 92% and that was gonna be very
Mhm.
bad. So I wanted to see the tax rate. I agree. I think Ms. Bucieri said that's a significant increase. I'm gonna call it a huge increase. That is really a big increase. And that's about all that I have to say. Again, I want to thank you all for asking the questions and the right ones. And I particularly like what Mr. Stassi said about a 10% cut across the board. I hope that between tonight's meeting and the next meeting, when you actually adopt the budget and have the public hearing, I hope you stick to what you said tonight. But as a taxpayer, I am insulted that I can't even see the budget. I can't even see what the increase in tax rate or anything else is. That should have been on that table tonight, and I expect it in my email box by tomorrow morning. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
I have Ann Larson.
Ms. Larson?
Good evening. Here, thank you for your. I also want everyone on the council who did ask the tough questions, the questions that need to be asked that obviously were overlooked in the budget preparation process, which I guess explains why I always came in late and we didn't have it till the last moment, not enough time to look at it. But so thank you for asking the difficult questions. The mayor asked for some suggestions. Boy, I could go to town with that. How about we start with a pay freeze and a hiring freeze? And when people do retire, perhaps we replace them with part-timers that don't require benefits. How about we cut back on all the conventions, the ones that aren't mandatory, okay? I don't see any sign of tightening our belts. I don't know if that the Recreation Committee needed to go to a convention recently, but I find these expenses deplorable in this current economy, okay? I happened to get a flat tire today. I missed the beginning of the meeting. I got a flat tire. Guess where I got it? I went and visited the pump track parking lot and I got a flat tire there. I noticed looks like nice brand new what do they call it? Process quarry or quarry process on the parking lot there. And there's brand new shiny picnic tables that I believe were donated. But I have to say that 1,000 cut down trees on that ridiculous path had to cost a pretty penny. I don't know where the money for that came from. Was that authorized also? And as Mr. Clarkin said, the council should be voting on each and every hire at this point. We cannot just be replacing people at will any longer, because obviously this isn't going well under these conditions. So let's see, the fund balance. I think we should keep the fund balance as small as possible because obviously our mayor thinks of this as a spending fund. So the less that's there for him to find reasons to spend for, I think it would be better for all concerned. So thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And let's like Peg said, 10% or better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, Marcy?
I don't have any other hands up.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion to close the floor to public comment?
Moved.
By Mr. Slarda, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Stassi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, motion carries. Okay, Mr. Mayor, do you have comments for us tonight?
Yes, thank you very much, President Bucieri. As part of the municipality's standard operating procedure, every department head is held accountable for ensuring that they and their staffs focus on identifying all possible grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities that may become available in their areas of responsibility. During 2022, this focus resulted in our municipality receiving almost $1 million in non-local taxpayer-provided grant money. We're already guaranteed that we will greatly exceed that dollar amount in non-local taxpayer-provided grant money in 2023. Well, we have started this year by receiving $3.4 million in grant funding that we applied for last year. I take this opportunity to share with the public the specific focus that I have asked our municipal's department heads to use when considering possible grants and other non-local taxpayer opportunities. First, I have asked them to focus on those grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities that will contribute to us achieving the objective of paying for those things that we need versus those things that we want or would be nice to have without increasing the budgeted dollars that we would be requiring from local taxpayers. I have asked them to focus second on those grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities where our municipal profile and demographics make us eligible or give us a realistic chance to be successful at achieving the grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities. I've asked them to focus third on those grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities for the allocation of our limited human and time resources are justified by the reality, the chance that we have of being successful at achieving the specific grant. And I have asked them to fourth, to focus on those grants and other non-local taxpayer funding opportunities, which will allow Vernon's governing body to be not simply a rigid bureaucratic face, but also an aware and understanding face that does not forget the least of these in our community. On tonight, in the form of Resolution 2399, I ask the council to approve the town's acceptance of a grant that falls into this fourth category of focus. And I thank the council for approving that request. This grant was applied for by our Director of Recreation and Community Affairs, Mrs. Michelle Downtain, and comes from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs. This $37,000 grant allows our town to administer a program for adolescents with disabilities, giving them some of the tools that they will need to transition successfully to adulthood. Among the key skills that this program teaches are empathy, partnership, leadership skills, and good decision-making. It also increases participants' physical fitness and self-esteem. This program is but one part of the mayor and council's efforts to ensure that Vernon is a good place to live for all members of our community. And my second and final comment focus on the fact that March is Employee Appreciation Month. And I did not want this month to end without me taking the opportunity to thank our municipality's employees for the work that they do day after day for the residents of Vernon Township. And I want to publicly let them know that they are appreciated. I tell them that every day. I understand that it's the elected officials, that is the mayor and the council, who get most of the positive spotlight for things that are accomplished in a municipality. However, I also know that as mayors and council members come and go, it's the cadre of specially trained, formally licensed, and skilled municipal employees who do the hard and detailed work of implementing the visions and actions that mayors and council members talk about and approve at council meetings. I have a specific knowledge and understanding of this fact because under our form of government, it's the mayor who is accountable for the implementation of any resolution, of any ordinance or other policy on which the governing body agrees. And as I know firsthand, that this implementation would never be successful without the efforts and actions of our outstanding group of municipal employees. It is because of this understanding that over the past 3+ years, on which I've had the honor and privilege of serving as mayor, I have on several occasions used my mayor's comments as well as other forums to express my appreciation for Vernon's municipal employees as individuals and as a group. And on tonight, as well as expressing my appreciation for all of the municipal employees, I want to first give some well-deserved words of thanks to one of my special employees, and that's Mrs. Irene Mills. She is the confidential aide to the mayor. Mrs. Mills is an employee who is respected and appreciated by not just me and other than the mayor's office, but by every employee and by every resident who interacts with her. She is simply one of the very best employees that I've ever worked with. Second, I want the public and the council to know that even though it has been only approximately a month since our new business administrator, Mrs. Tina Kraus, came to work for our town, credibility and connections within the county have already yielded positive financial results for our taxpayers. Business Administrator Kraus has used her connections with the Sussex County Administrator, who she worked with when they both were employees by the municipality of Hapakong, to gain Vernon access to a Sussex County contract, which will enable us to purchase our road salt for a price of $79.90 a ton, which is a significant savings of $17.54 a ton, or 18% below the price that we're currently paying for this project. Business Administrator Kraus has already proven herself to be another one of those Vernon municipal employees who are well-deserving of our thanks and appreciation. And I end by saying to all of our employees, and I speak on behalf of not just the mayor, but the entire council, thank you so very much. Council President Bucieri, that is my formal comments.
Mayor. Going to go to council comments. Start with Mr. Tadrick. Do you have any comments?
No, I'm good.
No? Mr. Rizzuto?
Yeah, I noticed that Mr. Stoner is here. Why?
Mr. Stoner is here because of the fact that I believe Mrs. Stassi had indicated that there were some discussions that she wanted to have about a particular project. And I wanted him to be here available in case she wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, well, I think I saw the note where she said the council asked that Mr. Stoner be here. I don't know, Mr. Tadrick, were you contacted by any member of the council? Or
No, sir, I was not.
Neither
And I'd
was
like
I.
to know who's paying for Mr. Stoner to be there. Is it the land use board or is it the coming out of the mayor's budget?
It's coming out of the mayor's budget.
The mayor's budget.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Not that I don't appreciate Mr. Stoner's,
I understand.
honest like presence. But I kind of think that, if we look at it on an hourly rate, there are probably some other guys, we could probably got better.
Well,
But seriously, what I'm trying to make light of is that I'm part of the council and so is Mr. Tadrick. And the comment was the council would like to have Mr. Stoner here. Seems to me that there's some discussions that are going on in a place where they should be going on. And I'm just cautioning that, I know that Mrs. Bucieri as council president worked well with me and, we never had a situation like that. So I can only envision that this may have come on a basis of inexperience. So let's be careful.
Ms. DeStassi had questions. She asked those questions. I indicated she could reach out to the mayor. She's a council member. We're all duly elected council members and she has the opportunity to
I
do
think
that.
the council would like Corey Stoner and Jessica Caldwell.
I understand that.
Fortunately, Mrs. Caldwell couldn't be here, so we saved some money. But, as far as the council is concerned, I'm part of the council, and if there was going to have been a straw poll or any type of agreement, so that we could advise the professional to be here or advise the mayor to have the professional here, I would have hoped that we would have been included. So,
There wasn't a straw poll, but I understand your comment. Thank you.
Well, I'll jump back in. This is the second time this has happened. And I think it's got to stop. We're a council of 5 people. And I would not speak on the council's behalf. I would speak on my behalf because that's all I can control. And I don't like being thrown into the box of saying the council did this or the council wants that if I haven't been at least spoken to about it. The second time this happened, I don't want it to be a third time. 3
There's
strikes
only-
and you're out.
There's only one person up here that speaks for the council, and that's the council president.
Any other comments?
Yes, I will answer to all of that. I place phone calls. If you don't return my phone call, then you can't be discussed with, correct? Sorry.
I was
but
never called. I was
Either
never
was I.
called.
Pull it up on my phone and show you. I have.
I'll show you. I have 2 phones. I have 2
Please.
phones and I track every single call. I was
Well,
never
you were
called on the
called.
last one. And I
You
was
were
never
called.
called on this one. If this is the way we're going to play the game, and I said this last time,
You were called.
fine.
I
New
just
rules.
Brad was
I'll play
called.
that way.
Everybody was called
Brad was called.
and I left a message.
Not
Please
me.
contact
You're
me.
lying, Peg. You're lying from the dais.
Because the email was the first thing I saw.
Yes, and you were copied in the email.
I was copied in
About
the email and it was
Yes.
the email said the council requests. You are not the council. You are a
And
member
I
of the
was
council.
asked- I was after I brought up the questions, I was asked by Mrs. Bucieri to please contact the mayor and
Then
representative
Mrs. Bucieri should have reached out and said, from the council, you are not speaking for the council. You are speaking for Peg. I am speaking for Joe. The only one who can speak for the council and any legal authority is
she
the president of
told
the
me to do
council. And well, then she made a mistake.
All right, the
shouldn't do
reason
it
that
again.
I wanted Corey here is real simple. To answer to the fact that the track that shows all of the damage was in fact inspected 3 or 4 times by Mr. Stoner's assistant, and the drainage issues were detailed. And yet it was signed off on and approved and released. So I asked him to be here so he could explain why it was not pursued further, so that we could understand what it was you brought up last time at our meeting.
Then
It
why
was
wasn't it on the
clarified-
agenda as
Pardon?
discussion? Why wasn't it on the agenda for discussion?
I
If
don't know.
Mr. Rizzuto hadn't mentioned that Corey was there, everybody would have said goodnight and we would have ended the meeting and Corey would have sat there.
I don't know
For
why
no
it
reason.
wasn't put on the
I
agenda.
apologize if it wasn't.
That was an error not on my part. It should have been. That is why I asked Mr. Corey to be here. I'm sorry, not Mr. Corey, Mr. Stoner to be here, was to answer to the inspections that detailed that the track was in trouble. That's it. It was to support you, Joe, not to cause this big problem that you seem to have with me.
I
I
don't have
do
a
my
problem,
homework.
Peg, I do not have a problem with you. I have a problem with the process.
Well, I
Exactly.
followed the process. I contacted the mayor and I contacted the president of the council. I did my job.
Okay,
And I also placed phone calls to you
It
both.
should have been a
I
discussion.
did not get a
I
phone call from you,
apologize about
Peg.
that.
I have 2 phones. It tracks everything because it has to in my business. You never called me.
Well.
So I don't know what number you called.
Your phone and let's see.
Don't know what
if,
number you
get
called.
it now.
Didn't call me.
Well, we'll find out, won't we? I'm gonna ring you now.
Okay, maybe we can move on and.
I think it's not
I
necessary.
think that's, we can.
Well, I don't want to be called a liar. I placed the phone calls.
But we can talk, you. Calling me now or calling Joe now doesn't determine whether or not yet.
That I placed. the
I,
call.
Yeah.
I apologize that the issue was not put on as a discussion item because Ms. DeStacy did request that. That was my error. I did indicate that she could reach out to the mayor and request that. Everyone takes their duties as the council president differently. I might handle things differently. It's not to leave you out, Joe, or Mr. Rizzuto, or Brad, or Ms. DeStacy, excuse me, Mr. Tadrick, or Mr. Sparta. Not my intention at all. So I hope you would accept that and understand that I would not leave you out. That's not the intention. I don't have a problem with Ms. DeStasia reaching out to the mayor and copying the council members if she has a question. I would encourage you to do the same too. She contacts me, she has a question. Sometimes I'll follow up and sometimes she does. We're all equal council members. Yes, I am the council president. I'm the voice of the council. However, I do feel that each one of you also has the opportunity to ask questions, bring issues up, request things be on the agenda and or discussion items. And if you have a further question, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Does anyone else have any comment?
We would like to ask if he could make an explanation that I just questioned about why the report showed
Yes.
damage, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. Hello, everyone. And Pat, thank you for that introduction.
You got a big reputation up to name.
I realize you didn't
Just
do
for
the inspection. but
You had questions regarding our inspection reports.
Yes,
You had asked for the inspection reports and my acceptance. You notice there was quite a difference between those dates. Those inspection reports were done by certain inspectors in my office.
Mhm.
And they were done, I think the last inspection report was in July. So June and July was when the project was under construction. It was not near completion at that time. There's a gap between that last inspection report that I sent to the date when they had completed. And that July, they were still in the process of putting the millings down before they actually put the surface course on the top. So there's quite a difference. You know, some of the other inspection reports you can see the culvert crossings being installed and they're formed up. Those obviously were completed as well.
Yes.
So there was some completion, a lot of items that were done after that last completion date. When it comes to the trail, it was inspected. When there was talk about the last meeting about the quality work that Salmon Brothers did. Salmon Brothers did do what we asked them to do. They added, we did add a number of drainage crossings during the project itself. There's still some work, some areas where we might not have caught all the water, the stormwater. And that goes back to the maintenance issues with the trail itself. But when it came time to the acceptance, the items from the called out in the inspection reports were complete before I accepted the project.
so the fact that we're still experiencing washout and drainage issues is going to be an ongoing problem with every snow or winter?
To some degree, there's certain areas that need to be improved. When I state that it is when we constructed the trail, we knew it was going to have to be, we had so much budget to utilize. We utilized the budget we had. We constructed a stone, like a stone-based trail. It kept it trying to natural base, but we had to struggle with what material to use on the surface. Wanted to be smooth enough people could easily ride the bikes, push strollers, things of that nature. But going to like a quarry process material would have became very coarse and wouldn't have been able to walk on. And we just didn't have the money to pave it at that time. The thought was down the road that would be paved. Right now, the condition of the trail, it has to be maintained. And once a month after large storms, the road department is going to have to, touch it up. I believe as the trail and the border areas all grow and stabilize, I think it'll get the situation get better. When I state that there's a couple erosion areas around the pump track, well, that I believe has to do with the water gets inside the pump track and then it discharges through a couple small pipes. But the banks on the pump track are still stabilizing. Even though we got soil erosion sign off by Soil Conservation District, if you go there today, you can see the grass is very sparse. It's not really taken. It'll get better. The best scenario would be to pave it. Then almost all the maintenance criteria goes away. There's one area below Omega Drive. If you notice, they've got the two apartment buildings, Omega. We placed 3 small drains crossings right below that area. And it's covered, it took care of most of the water, but there's a section a little bit further down below the PAL where it's still water. We didn't catch all the water. So there's a little bit of drainage does need to be installed there. But other than that, I think paving will take almost all this away.
So the erosion that's occurring in the quarry process and everything, are you suggesting or saying that with paving it, that won't happen?
Yeah, I think what's happening, there's one section that, like I've stated, I believe we need to put another drain pipe in and handle the situation. Most of the other areas, when you have water starts to run in the trail,
Yeah.
it starts a little rivulet, little gully. Next storm hits, the next storm hits. So if you don't maintain it regularly, it's gonna get worse and worse and worse. I walked the trail the other day, and it was after the road department, all they did was take the front end of their plow truck, drop the plow and back drag it. And that by itself already started to regrade it.
Okay.
They've since, I believe they've been back out last week. Last week, I haven't walked it since last 2 Sundays ago. And it takes a couple hours. They grade it back and it goes, it's back in usable condition.
Okay,
It's almost like you do, like if you have a baseball field, you gotta drag the field.
Mhm.
You can't just let it go forever. It's every week, the baseball field's drug, it's smooth. I don't think this is an every week situation, but if you have a large rain event, you have to go look at it. One of the situations that hasn't been touched since they were completed, which they were complete basis September. Just went over a winter time, kind of there was some wet periods during that time. And I think in large sections of it, it's held up, but it's not just walk away and leave it, it's gonna be okay.
I just was concerned that paving on top of all of that, it's just gonna now undermine the macadam.
But that's the situation with the road department's already regraded it. When I say regraded, it wasn't massive regrading they needed. They had to smooth it out and then they roll the material, compact it. It's ready for the most part to pave. I had given an estimate, approximately about $100,000 to resurface, pave the entire path. It's only 8 feet wide.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for coming this evening and explaining it. I hope it is helpful. It was for me.
Does anybody else have any questions? Mr. Tadrick?
We had the same kind of, there's an elevation over at Maple Grange Park. It's equal to this. And you had the same kind of thing until we finally paved that too. So
Maple Grange Park was paved by 2 separate DOT trust fund grants.
Yeah.
Gave some money to pave those trails.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions? Mr. Tadrick? No? Okay.
thanks, Corey.
Owner. Are there any other comments from any council members? Okay. I just have one quick comment. Mr. Tadrick, you did bring up at our last meeting questions about the cannabis ordinance and concerns you had. So I just wanted to let you know that I did reach out to the mayor. I reached out, as you suggested, to the land use board attorney. And I wanted to let you know that the mayor will be setting up a time to discuss some issues. And I hope you'll be able to take part in that meeting since you do have some concerns.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? No? I have a motion to adjourn.
Move.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.